Good morning, sir. My name is Clara one more. So this morning I'll be taking you through all the steps I followed to achieve this project. So or to complete this assignment. This is an assignment that required that we collect a data set and pre-process the data sets, build a model, and deploy it. So first thing I did was to go to Kaggle and I identified the data set I wanted to work with, which was hearing test classification based on age and physical score. So I manually downloaded the data set from Kaggle and read it into my Jupyter notebook. So this data set was gotten from kaggle.com. And it's stated by the author um, that it was originally a document from Google search. A document from Google search that showed that it was also a synthetic data, meaning it was not a real life data. So I went ahead to import pandas and read the file and viewed the first five rows with data.head. Upon viewing this data, I could see that it was clean, just like as it was stated in the document. The documentation of the data said that it's a clean data. So, but to confirm this, I went ahead to carry out some pre-processing. I started by cleaning the data. Looking at it, everything looked in shape except for the age that is in a continuous form. So this I changed to a discrete number. Now, I looked at the information of the data set. It had a total of 5,000 entries and 3 rows. So the rows are age, physical score, and test results. I checked the shape, collaborated with what I just read earlier, 5,000 by 3. So I went ahead to check for missing data. And true to the facts, like the documentation stated, there was no missing data. Then I proceeded to checking for duplicates. So when I did data dot duplicated parentheses, I discovered that we had some data. So I had to go and find out how many of this data was duplicated. And when I did data.duplicated.sum, I had about 1,470 data were duplicates. So I had to remove these duplicates. And that reduced the shape of the data set from 5,000 by 3 to 2,600 by 3. So I went on to, like I stated before, change the age from a continuous number to a discrete number. Then I did data.described, which gave me the count of the data, the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum and the maximum, basically the quarters of the data set. So I went ahead to also do exploratory data analysis, which helped me visualize the data. And I could see, using Matplotlib, I could see here with this distribution of age and physical score, I could see that the physical score declined as the age increased, meaning that there is a decline in physical score as the individual ages. So we had the physical score peaking at between 20 to 30, while the age peaked between 40 to 60. At the end of the day, this histogram showed that age and physical score had a relationship. There is a suggestion of a strong positive relationship between the two variables. Then I did the same thing for with bot plots to check for um outliers. Now I discovered some outliers. So for age, the outliers was ages below 20 and ages above 80 were the outliers. Same thing for physical score. So the physical score we had the median was approximately 30 years for the physical score. So I went on to do scaling of the age like I mentioned before, so making it a discrete number. The potential limitation I see for this data set is the fact that it's a simulated data and it had so many duplicate data. So trying to remove the duplicates, we lost about 1,400 entries. So I decided to pick the models that I'll use for training this data set. So these were the models I settled for. One based, naive based, linear discriminant analysis, rich classifier, voting classifier, bagging classifier. I went ahead to import all the necessary files from necessary libraries from sklearn, from model selection to pre-processing to the models itself, then the accuracy score. I loaded and prepared my data by splitting the data into X data and Y data. So the X data contained the age and the physical score, which were the features selected, and the Y data was the target variable. I also went on to split my data, train and split my data by doing X train, X test, Y train, Y test. And I picked my test size under my test underscore size to be 0.2, which is significantly using 80% of the data to train and 20% of the data to test to test. Then I fitted and transformed the data, then individually trained the data. So upon training the data, I discovered that all the models had approximately the same accuracy. So from the naive base accuracy that was 84.4% to linear discriminant analysis that was 84.2%, read classifier and voting classifier, and the bagging classifier also had the same accuracy, which was averagely 84% accurate. Now, the next task was to go. So I've imported, I've downloaded the data set. I've read in the data set into my Jupyter notebook. I've cleaned the data, I've pre-processed, and I've built my model. So the next thing now is to deploy the model. So I went from my Jupyter notebook and straight into my VS Code. So on this VS Code, you can see that the files I have here is app.py fast app_app.py, the hearing test CSV file, then the model.py, then the models.pkl. So I'm going to start with how I got to this point. So the first thing I did was to create a folder that I called ML model deployment assignment. And the first thing I put into this folder was the data set, which was the hearing test data set. Then I went on into my VS Code and I located this folder. So from this folder, I opened another file inside the folder and I called it model.py. So in this model.py, if you see, let me move this a bit. In this model.py, I basically imported pandas and all the necessary um, package from sklearn to build the model. So from my from my Jupyter notebook, I moved all the models that I used, that I built and trained. I trained and built. I moved them into this model.py. So you can see I reference for reading the file, did the feature selection. So the feature and the target variables were separated. Then I did the split train test sets. Like I stated before, it was 0.0. The size was zero point 0.2, the test size was 0.2. Then I put in the scalar fits in the scalar dot fits underscore transform and all the models that were trained. So that's what you find in this model.py, all the models and models that were trained, the data sets. Now to save these models, I had to use Pico. So I imported Pico. Then with open models of PKL, I created this file. And to save the model, I did pico.dump. So I dumped all the models into this pk.dump, and it's now created another file inside the folder that's called model. When I ran it, and I created a file called model.pkl. So from here, I did nothing with this. So I just went on to open another file that I called app.py, and this is where you find I dumped them. I first of all imported flags, then imported pickle and numpy, then initiated app as the flags because this was the flags deployment. So I loaded in the saved data, the saved model, um, then wrote the function that if this model is correct, at the end of it, it should produce a message that says prediction, ML model prediction. So when I ran this, I got a message. Let me look for it on my desktop. So I got a message that includes the websites that I went to. I think this was it. Okay, this was for Fast API. Um, mm, so this one was for Fast API, but basically it was the same message that I got for the app.py. So I got him. I got this email, this website, and I clicked on it, and it gave me welcome to ML model prediction app.py or fast. It says flags. But and then I went on to carry out the same process for the fast API, the same thing, imported fast API, then imported pickle, imported numpy. Basically the same step that I took with the app.py was the same steps I took here and returned the same message I just showed earlier. But the problem I encountered, so if you look at this problem here, is stating that import flags could not be resolved. Import fast API could not be resolved. So this, although it ran on 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 my Anaconda, on this VS Code, it's showing me that Flask is not imported. Meanwhile, the first thing I did was to import Flask. So I don't know if it's a problem with my system, but I tried it with Anaconda. So it is my Anaconda. So if I copy these parts, go back to my Anaconda, and I do cd, it takes me into the directory. If I do Python, it ran before. I don't know if it will run now, but okay. So this was the website he gave. I clicked on it. I'm just copying. So welcome to ML model predict.api. So on the VS Code is giving me an error message, but on my Anaconda prompt, it ran very well. So these were all the steps I took to carry out this assignment. Thank you.